Steve, are you going to call the?
Yes, I just was wondering if we're going to have another member?
No.
He told me he was going to be not here.
All right, well, because we have 6 members on the Public Works Board that should be able to vote for the officers, we want to wait and delay that until the next meeting?
Or space, it doesn't matter.
Because I don't know that we technically could vote, because it would require 4 members to be able to vote for the board president.
Yeah,
Then we should wait. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal, right?
makes sense.
So let Mark just call the meeting to order and go through
Yeah.
the regular business, because that's all just city business and
That'd be
3
you. I thought
members
it'd
can
be
do
you.
it.
You can do it.
Yeah, Ian, excuse me.
All right, call this meeting to order. Shake after 5. Roll call, please.
Ms. Schmidt. Here. Mr. Pickard.
Here.
Mr. Lear.
Here.
I was fairly certain Mr. Temperley had told me he wasn't going to be here, so
That's correct. Which brings us, because we're going to postpone election of president and vice president to next month. That brings us to item number 5, approval or correction of the minutes from April. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Because I always do a roll call vote. Roll call vote.
Mr. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt.
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Questions, public comment? Brings us to the 2018 street maintenance. Dwayne?
I don't need it, but still. Sorry about that. The memo that we presented, we're on the 2018 street maintenance plan and contracts. This is just a memo summarizing the work that was done last year on the maintenance program. It's required by city code to provide a report to the council. This is for your review, but ultimately it provides information that leads into the next 2 items. Ultimately, the last line in the report shows the remaining reserve account from 2018 of $527,000. Combine that with the $100,000 worth of maintenance budget in the 19 budget. We're looking at $627,000 when you're considering the next 2 items that we're about to talk about. If there's any questions, again, it's several pages to read, but it's just a summary of.
It looked like all the things that we were talking about in this room,
Correct.
basically in chronological order.
Correct. If you have any specific questions, we can talk about them, but it's pretty self-explanatory.
I'm good with it. That brings us to the next one, which is.
Thank you.
Yeah, touche, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you keep that up on a regular basis, or do you go back and look through the monthly minutes?
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm just curious.
I went back and looked through the minutes.
All right.
I wrote but I have one for every year from like 2001 till now. I think the year I had back surgery, I didn't do one. But other than that, I have all of them. So it's kind of going through and just searching the minutes and all the motions and resolutions and making sure that that's in there. Dwayne wrote all the additional points at the bottom. So it's kind of a combined effort there.
Well, that said, that brings us to item 8, which is the milling and asphalt, concrete paving and patching bid.
So these were opened last Thursday afternoon. There were 3 bidders. The apparent low bidder is Wolf Paving out of Oconomowoc for $515,162.95. Wolf Paving has done work on the maintenance projects in the past, the last year being 2016. Very similar projects at that time. It's an annual project. They have been bidding every year since. Another contractor has been low the last 2 years, but capable of doing the work. They've done it before. As far as what was included in that 515,000, just to summarize, and 1 second. There are portions of that bid that also are in the Parks Department. Some work out at Walls Park, some work at Fayville Park, and then also the asphalt that's required at the library parking lot. So
That's Fayville Park.
it's a proposed concrete sidewalk running north and south with an asphalt patch running east and west between the parking lot and the play structure. The portion that is going north up to County Trunk Highway V from the play structure has been removed, is not intended to be installed until the sidewalk is installed along County Trunk Highway V. This is a map of Ballas Park. Again, the pads or the gravel path has been there for a number of years. The building was completed, I believe, last year. The intention with this would be to do some fine grading and then put asphalt underneath the bleachers and then along the trail and around the building, the concession stand building out to the parking lot. The library drawing, which Steve is putting up, is the parking lot and driveway to the library. This will be proposed to be constructed, the base will be constructed and the grading will be constructed by city forces. And then the asphalt will be under this contract, and the concrete will be under actually last year's concrete bid. When we look at the 515,000, a portion of that, about 50,000, is in the parks plan. And then also about 20,000 of this contract is in the library portion. So if you would take about 70,000 away from that 515, that's the amount that's being applied generally to the maintenance contract. Now, in addition, there would be any patches for water main breaks, that would be covered by the water utility. Any other patches related to sewer or electric would be then to the associated utility that caused the patch.
What were we anticipating this to be?
The estimated,
What, the engineer's opinion of probable cost?
so the bid tab was provided, and on the far right side of the bid tab was the opinion of cost that was provided prior to. So on the far right side of that column, that equated to, roughly, we were looking at 520 to 530,000. The bid came in at 515.
You guys are getting pretty good at this.
It helps when you have a series of years to review and the contractors are staying consistent, yes.
Although the other two contractors were quite a bit higher.
They were quite a bit higher. Again, I didn't reach out to both of them. Some of that could be amount of work that they already have. Actually, both Wolf and Payne and Dolan both have work on other jobs in the city as subconsultants. So potentially that was some of the reason one of them was higher. But again, if you would like, I can reach out to them, but
That got us right to where we need to be. There's,
the low bid did get us right where we were
As long as you're right on next year too.
expecting. Correct.
this isn't the first time you've been pretty close. I mean, it's been much more consistent the past couple of years.
Every once in a while, you get way off because historical trends don't translate. So there were like 2018 and 2009, and I think there was a couple times in the 90s when the oil prices shot up and down. You know, then they were scrambling to find asphalt shingles instead of oil, but the prices were still way out of line. And that happened with concrete too. There was a year where everybody needed concrete and you couldn't find concrete.
So to clarify that, prices do change over time. We try to use historical numbers when we do our estimates. We were fortunate that at least one of the three bidders stayed true to past history.
So I see a prepared motion.
Correct?
I just have one quick question. We can push this motion through, right? All right, nothing changed there. Okay.
Yeah, street work is all city, so 3 would be a quorum on that.
So it's a board of 5 for city stuff and a board of 6 where town would vote.
Okay.
Electric
And
and
this doesn't
sewer.
have any township stuff in it?
No.
Hot diggity. So there's a prepared motion.
I move adoption of motion 1951.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Lehrer?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
It's just so reassuring to hear that. Sorry. That brings us to item number 9 then for curb and gutter.
Same concept. This is for the curb and gutter, sidewalk, concrete work in the city under the maintenance program. Again, it'll include work that is in the parks and at the, no, actually in the library will be under last year's contract. There were 2 bidders. The low bidder was $143,434. Again, the opinion of cost was $163,000 or $160 to $165. Talked to the contractor. They're confident with their bid. So even though there was a number that was even lower than what our estimate was, they're still confident and are good with their bid.
Do we have to do anything for bid bond or guarantee?
They did. The reason it's checked is there was a guarantee in the packet, and when we read it, it was just a dollar amount.
Okay.
So it didn't say 5%. We then checked after the number was read, 143, and the check was for the 5%.
Okay. So this one seems about as straightforward, especially after looking through the bid tab. To your point, it still came in a little bit less. Any further talk? I see there's a prepared motion.
I move adoption of motion 1952.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lehrer?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Pickard?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Woo! So next month, we have elections. That's the one thing off the list that I know of off the top of my head. Can we talk about future agendas as well on the bus, or do you want them all hashed out now?
I think we probably should talk about most of these now because we won't, well, I guess I'll let Dan answer.
Yeah, it's appropriate to talk about them now.
So Paul and I we are already starting, but we will try to have a report on the yard waste progress since the beginning of the year at next month's meeting.
Okay. Do we have any more about we had a test bed set up for the water supply?
That's tonight.
You'll see
That's
that
on your
on the tour.
agenda tonight, so. Yeah,
So,
let's hope we have radium. The report was submitted and approved. So we'll have a contractor in shortly. Yeah, so we'll have that work being completed relatively shortly this summer. And then hopefully we're done with that for a number of years.
so we're adding radium and corrosion control to the agenda.
And yard
We don't
waste?
need corrosion control, do we? That we're doing that tonight. It would be radium.
A while ago, we talked regarding water about the lead service laterals, and we talked about maybe setting up a loan program since, as far as I understand it, our state funds are mostly exhausted or completely exhausted. Is that something we could talk about?
We've done investigation on it. I don't know that we have necessarily a plan, but we're aware of what options are basically available. I mean, whether it's a grant program funded by the city, there's the potential for future state proceeds to be available. Right now, we don't have any more. So I think we can start the process.
We'll be starting a water rate case, and that'll be discussed as part of that. As we move that forward, we'll be talking to you about that, too.
Yeah, it comes in two different levels, because obviously Governor Evers proposed to increase the money. Some analysis of the proposal still left us outside the ability to gain. For some reason, it was a fluke year, and we were under the eligibility requirement by 1/100th of a point. Unlikely to happen again anywhere in the near future. We're over the top. But, we'll keep an eye on it. And, but we have looked at putting it in the rate. They have two very strict options for how you do it in the rate, so. We'll just have to look at that.
So it's a elected or appointed decision as to, I would think, a community decision as to how to structure that, I would think. If it's part of the rate, that implies ratepayers pay for it versus a loan program that would be self-funded.
That's correct. And that's why it's going to require
At the board, at this board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But I think what Paul was saying was that discussion will happen when the rate case analysis is complete. And we're in the process of providing information to Strand at this time as they're preparing that information for the PSC to start that process.
I think they'll evaluate both of them as part of the rate case and then make a recommendation, which then you guys get to look at.
Okay.
To a certain extent, they're still both loan programs.
Wouldn't the council make the final decision, though?
Council always makes the final decision. There are very few things that the council doesn't make the final decision on.
Okay, so we could make a recommendation, and then the council would decide.
Yep.
Without getting into the weeds too much, what's the second alternative? I'm more familiar with like a PSC rate case for water. What's this other alternative you're talking about?
Well, they have, one is a special assessment process where they let you borrow money and upfront into the utility, the ability to bring in all this additional cash, which then you lend out under special assessment or special charge. But that's paid back over the course of time, just like any other special assessment. And the other one is pretty similar. And I'm trying to remember, do you remember off the top of your head, Paul, that it still requires some level of payback? I think that one allows the city to pay 50% of it. But there's some debate as to whether the utility pays it or the actual city pays it. And so those are kind of ongoing discussions. They've been changing it and modifying it. And
So when
most
we-
of the ones that have done it so far have gone with the special assessment type process.
So when we go through and do that process in here, either you guys are going to explain it or give us a little bit more to read so I can understand what I'm walking into.
Well, I'm
Sorry.
assuming Justin's going to
I'm ignorant
explain.
there.
Yeah, we'll have the guys doing our rate case come and explain all that.
Okay.
And then the third one is, depending on what happens with Governor Evers' proposal, that may make all this move.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be a while before that budget's passed.
If I was any man, I'd agree.
It's got a $1.4 billion hole in it right now, so I don't know what that means.
All right, so that covers us for next month. The next thing I see for us is our tour. Anything else we should talk about before we go on our tour? Let's do a tour.
Well, this is it.
Can we do something about the potholes?
Yeah. We're gonna deepen. So all we're gonna do is we'll go up and kind of turn around by the fire station there, but,
Is there gonna be grass between the sidewalk and the curb?
yeah,
It's all concrete.
yeah.
Here?
Okay, yeah.
That's all concrete.
All the big grass.
Grass
but
is
it's
there.
real,
Yeah, why'd they stop though?
real hard grass.
It says they got stop signs up now.
No.
The gentleman there in the blue shirt is. the
Oh,
Why did they
project
stop?
manager.
Guys,
They poured
put the
two
light-
sections.
The light poles,
Gotcha.
bases are being poured first.
So are we continuing to go?
Yeah, you go up to Veterans Lane and take a right, you know. just
Okay,
turn
so we're
around.
going through the construction?
Nope, we're gonna turn.
Right where those two holes are.
There you go.
Oh,
Turn right in there.
oh, okay,
You
okay.
got it.
Got it. Okay. Oh, I never knew the fire department was back
Please.
here.
No, you gotta go down to
Go on the other side.
Oh, I
Go on the
see.
gravel, yeah.
Goes underground and under this.
Under the HR
We're gonna drop.
Yeah. So that used to be a shoe factory.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then you can just go up and just swing all the way around.
That's just gonna be a concrete culvert, right?
If there's sand, just swing over and stop.
This is sidewalk.
I mean, where it says no parking?
Yep,
Yep.
we got the police chief. So we just made a quick run down Main Street, obviously, just a couple of quick updates. Right now, it sounds like construction is about a week ahead of schedule. If the weather stays like this, maybe a little bit more. Understanding is that probably after Memorial Day, downtown will be finished. All the signs will be in, the street will be marked and all that kind of good stuff. And then, of course, we're not gonna go down that way, but they're making their way south. And I think they're making good progress down that way also.
They got the water and sewer done, except for the services. And the storm sewer is running behind, but you can see that they rocked the road. So they're getting ready to start pouring concrete here, not next week, but the week after.
And when Steve said done in phase two. Phase two ending at East Lake Park Place. So beyond that to the south has not been started.
Yeah, so today our conversation was about June 2nd is graduation, and they're gonna be ready to jump the street, and they get to close Lake Park Place for 7 days, and they didn't want to do it during graduation, so there was a little bit of conversation about how we were gonna make that work. So they were gonna jump the street, I think, and start laying pipe and then come back and reset it. But anyways, they're doing really well. Had a couple hiccups here and there, water main break, some weird sanitary sewer connections, some weird water connections. Well, overall, they're flying along. They've taken advantage of a couple situations, you know, about keeping the road open and that, but they've been working hard.
Don't worry about those one-finger salutes, we're okay. So any questions on South Main as to where we are and how things are going? Okay, great. We're gonna go to Mulberry, and I think actually on the way to after Mulberry, we'll go to the library. So we'll change our route
Either
just
way.
a little bit, yep. So, you go up and take a left, please. We're gonna head back toward the library.
I'm Patty.
All right, so Mulberry Street behind you, and as you recall, we decided that we were gonna go from basically Fargo north, get that done, and then go south so that we don't interfere too much with the Main Street project. Now, this has not been going quite as fast as South Main Street. They ran into some water issues right at Fargo and Mulberry, if I remember right, quite a bit of water. And weather has slowed them down, as has
Gas
and telephone, getting them out of the way. Even though they had a long time to do this, they didn't do it till later. Indeed, we really had to push on Frontier. It's a longer story. I won't give you all the ugly details with that. But everybody is through there now. All the stuff is out, and we're hoping McGuire is the contractor. They're hoping they can move a little faster now. Yeah, same thing as in Main Street, you know, there's been some little hiccups here and there, but overall, other than water, they've been doing okay. Is that a safe way to
Yeah.
put it, you think?
Yeah, I think that they wish they were going a little faster, but,
They also have some SHPO problems that we're trying to get taken care of.
yeah, so.
SHPO is Historic District. There's a house that is in the Historic District. That's one that's got the fence around it, the older fence. And the issue was whether or not that fence was part of the property or part of the historic house. And long story short, it's not. And so we had worried about whether or not we have to preserve it. Bottom line, we don't have to. And so that allows that
We still have
project
to file.
Yeah. But that actually came out better than we had anticipated. Any questions on Mulberry? All right. We're just going to swing by the back side of the library, then we'll talk a little bit about that. So, if you want to, we'll go up here and probably go right up on Main Street.
Sidewalk. Over 8 Hooker Street.
All right, so I think you know about this one, but this is obviously the back side of the library. This is where the house used to be. I think that went down a couple of years ago, no? Anyway. So we'll be putting a parking lot in here. And my understanding is that this driveway is going away, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Going in here.
New
Then we'll
driveway.
put the new driveway in here. And I don't know how many spots are in there, Dwayne, off the top of your head?
Yeah.
If you knew, why didn't you prepare?
I think it's roughly 15 now.
15.
Oh, at least 15.
Yeah.
And then as part of that, we'll be fixing up the parking lot that's there and the drive that comes off of Madison.
Taking care of the handicapped access there at the back door. And then there'll be a stormwater detention basin there too.
There's some drainage issues from the library that we'll take care of at the same time.
So it's not continuous, that's paved all the way through, it's a parking lot and a parking
No,
lot.
it'll be paved all the way through.
Paved all the way
So
through.
you can get all the way through to Madison from here and vice versa.
And, are you keeping the trees or are you taking those
A
down?
couple of trees are going away.
Yeah, this sidewalk's got to go down, so these 2 trees will go, a couple of those trees will go. Because the parking lot's going to be to the west, the stormwater detention basin will be on the east side. And that's why the driveway's coming out over here. And we have to drop the grade down to be able to get the stuff to match
Pretty
up.
steep terrace.
That sidewalk is, you know, if you're over there, it goes up like this, and then over there, it goes back down like that.
You want to see what it's going to look like? That's the drawing there. But it will be a nice addition for parking and all kinds of stuff. So, any questions on this project? All right, we'll keep moving. So, go all the way across to Lake Street. So this is well 6, and if you'd like, we'll go inside and we'll show you the corrosion control test rack we've got built in there. This is not something that you'll find in every well house. In fact, you'll probably only find one of these in 2 well houses in the entire state of Wisconsin, so we're proud to have one of them. But what we're doing is an experiment, and the experiment basically is to determine what chemical compound or compounds are best for putting a coating on the water lines to prevent corrosion. And the whole idea is that there are chemicals that will actually coat the inside of the pipe and prevent lead or copper from leaching into the water. And so we're actually working on 4 different compounds, or 3 I should say, 3 different options to how we might be able to do this. Now I'll explain this first, and then we can take a look back here and see exactly what we're doing. So all we're doing, straightforward, is we're taking water, well water, and you'll notice we're taking out these 2 500-gallon drums, and the reason is that we don't want to take it directly out of here, or we'll shoot this thing right across the wall. So we're taking it out of these 2 drums as we need. And we're taking it into these pipes. And the whole idea is to mimic what's at a residence. And so the size of the pipes and the amount of water that we run through here is quite comparable, in theory, to what goes through a house. And so the way this is set up, there's a timer right here, and we run water through here from 9:20 to 9:30 in the morning, and then again from 12:20 to 12:30, and so on. We've got different times that we run the water through here so that we're mimicking the amount of water. And the other thing that we're trying to mimic is how long water just sits in the pipes. And so from 12:30 p.m. to 3:20 p.m., the water doesn't move. It just sits there. And that's fairly typical with a family that's, you know, maybe working or something like that. So that's kind of the basic idea of what we're doing. So water comes in here, and then because of we had to keep this thing a little compact, the water runs all the way down to this end, and down to here, and then it comes through this series of pumps. And these pumps each put in a different chemical mix. The two things, or the one thing that stays constant, is they always get chlorine, because we add chlorine to the water, and so we want to make sure we add that here. But we have a silicate, which is basically just designed to coat the pipe. It's a little different than what's traditionally used. What's traditionally used is an orthophosphate or a polyphosphate, and I can try to give you all the whereases of that, but the basic difference is that the silicate is designed to coat the pipe. An orthophosphate is also designed to coat the pipe, and then the polyphosphate is actually designed to sequester, if you will, iron and manganese, and the idea is to put that in little clumps and keep it moving through the system. So, let me back up again. So this one is purely silicate. This one, I gotta read this to make sure I get these right, I think is 100% orthophosphate. Yep, the 4200, that means it's all orthophosphate. So everything in here is going to coat the pipe. This Aquamag, this loop happens to be exactly what we're doing now. So it's 30% polyphosphate and 70% orthophosphate. Okay? This is the exact opposite. So we're checking to see if our ratios can be changed. So this one is, I always say this wrong, it's 30% ortho, 70% poly. And I'm missing one. Oh, the 8600. This is, I'm sorry, I mixed up. This is the 30% phosphate, 40% ortho. This is the exact opposite, but it's what we're doing now. So in other words, this is kind of our control. Does that make sense? Did I confuse you on that?
Enough, but it makes sense.
Okay, thanks. So we pump it through here, and we meter how much water is going through each one of these. And by the way, this is exactly what the new AMI meters look like. So see what those babies look like. Then it goes up through here. We monitor exactly how much water is going through the system. And we're sending it through a series of copper pipes, first of all, and then a series of lead pipes over here. And what the guys do every day is they draw a sample off of all the copper pipes, and they draw a sample off of all the lead pipes. So what they're looking for, we know how much is going in total. And so then we want to find out what's coming out here. How much of the chemical is coming out here? So we send these water samples in for a test, and they tell us how much of this product is coming back out. And that also tells us what we're doing here. And then we also test the water, all the water at the end, to see what the lead and copper content is. In other words, we're looking to see two things. How much these are being coated, and how much is leaching into the water yet. Does that make sense? So that's it in a nutshell. And then the whole thing is just discharged into that drain over there. So really a fairly simple experiment, but it will show us, hopefully, what the best chemical makeup is. We've been doing this since January, and I'm going to give you very, 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 very preliminary results. And those are that what we're doing now, loop 2 and the 100% orthophosphate are proving to be the two best options for us. In other words, they're giving us the best coating, and they're giving us the lower lead and copper readings. But we've got a long way to go. Silicates may take a little longer to work, as we understand it, so that may prove to be the best one in the long run, but right now, the orthos are the best way to go.
So we're drinking that stuff?
You are drinking that stuff. Well, not this stuff.
I know what you're saying.
But we already add orthophosphates to the water, yes. So you are drinking it, absolutely.
Well, you had orthophosphates, you had bleach, and you had fluoride too.
Yes, right. So plus all the minerals that are already in the water.
And fluoride.
And fluoride, yep. Yep, so it's chlorine, fluoride, ortho, and polyphosphates you're drinking right now.
What exactly is
You're
it?
looking pretty good though, Mick. I think you're all right, buddy. I've heard that if you mix it with ice and whiskey, it's even better, yeah?
What exactly is that? What are first phosphates and ortho?
Well, basically orthophosphate it's phosphoric acid, right? It's kind of one of the main compounds in it. And don't get me into all the chemistry. I don't totally understand what's in it. The only difference I understand is that the poly is meant to suspend the iron and the manganese and keep it moving through the system. And then the ortho is meant to leave some kind of a coating on the inside of the pipe. And the whole idea, and the reason it's called corrosion control, is that the more the pipes corrode, the more that can leach into the water from the pipes, the worse it is. And so we want to prevent that from happening.
And that's what the lining does.
Yeah. Very, very thin, microscopic thin lining.
And that's basically a phosphorus.
Are there any benefits for the mix that we're using versus the other good mix on the wastewater treatment side?
We're keeping an eye on that, and we don't know. I mean, phosphates overall are not stuff we want at the waste treatment plant. My understanding, and Brandon help me out here, poly is worse than ortho.
Well, my understanding is that they both, I think everything you're testing here would be essentially the same in terms of impact on the treatment. Yeah.
Other than the silicates. I understand the silicates
Well,
are a little rougher on the
That's,
treatment plant.
that's correct, yeah, I mean, yeah. But it would be a reduction in phosphorus.
Silicates don't have phosphorus, but
Right.
they're more like, almost like a sand.
Yes,
I
silicates.
think probably what you're referencing is like anything you add for phosphorus, you potentially would have to remove the treatment plant. So these are the same in terms of like what you would potentially.
But that's a very real part of this too.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we don't put anything in that we end up having to try to take out later. We have to do a little cost benefit analysis there. So-
There's some difference in them, because one is 30% poly and 70% ortho, and the other one's exactly the opposite. So you're getting a percentage more, but I don't know that it's a huge amount. But what we do at the wastewater treatment plant is we add alum to remove the phosphorus. So anything you put in to the water that's phosphorus has to be essentially attempted to remove.
Yeah, and they got it at a really
And the
low
more
level.
phosphorus, the more alum. So if we're required to put in more phosphorus, then we're putting in more alum. And it's just a vicious circle.
Okay.
Yeah, so in those terms, the one we're really interested in is that 100% ortho and what that may do on the other end.
Yes.
But again, it's one of the two right now that's in the running for really doing a nice job, which makes sense. I mean, it should. If ortho is the coat, that should
It
be
reduces the leaching.
And we do put that in then at a lower concentration. I mean, it's 100% ortho, but it doesn't go in at the same level as the mix.
The goal is 2 milligrams per liter total phosphate per loops 1 through 3.
Thank you.
So that's the part where we're concerned is the total phosphate feed went up in the treatment plant and we have to deal with it.
Actually, effluent limits are low, like lower than that, right?
And they're getting lower. So we're very aware of that. Any questions on this?
So the milligrams per liter rate being run through, this is the same as what we're currently using in the city?
No, it's a ratio of that. We had, or I shouldn't say we, but our engineer had to do some math to get those ratios right because of the volume of water that we're using in total. So it's diluted more than what we're putting in now, so it mimics again.
It mimics what we're doing currently.
Yes,
As far as level.
Yep.
Ratio.
Yes.
Water to.
As close as we can get, and I mean, the whole thing is based on an average household.
You should have been in conversations listening to them say, well,
Yeah.
Our guy going, well, this is, we're not going to get. It was
And
like,
then the DNR standing over here waiting till that discussion is done, and then that changed the whole discussion. All right, anything else while we're in here? Okay, we can go back outside.
same with the chemicals.
Yeah. That's pretty common.
All right.
Depends on which well is online. I think we rotate through wells still.
Yep.
How far away you are from the water tower.
Yep. A couple of things before we back out here. You'll see they've started some of the work here for extending CP when the winery goes in over here, and then they will also be starting their way along American Way, putting in bike trail, and then ultimately American Way over in Brookstone. So we're going to kind of head that way in a little bit. Just want to explain the big blue tank here. When we drain the water tower, that will be connected to this reservoir to maintain pressure. You know, when the water tower is empty, we don't have the ability to form pressure, and so that's what that is there for.
What's the one above ground tank used for?
The one by,
Storage.
oh, same thing.
Storage.
Yeah, that's our
Storage.
That's our biggest storage tank.
Same as the one that's on the side of the building here.
That one I think is 400,000, this one's 100,000.
This one's
Yes.
100.
Then we have one more, which is,
The water tower. Well, the other well has some in the
yeah,
front.
200,000, I think. We've got, yeah, okay. All right, so you can either back out of here or go on the line, turn around, whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot going on out here. The part of the American Way project includes a new stormwater detention basin back there. So where you see that silt fence going out, that's a big stormwater detention basin. That'll be part of the drainage that comes off of the street. There's 26 acres there that we're looking at trying to sell, and we have a buyer who wants to start June 1st, if we can get the DNR to move. And the bike trail does run all the way along the side here. There will be chips all the way through here. The paving is actually within the park over there.
It starts at this corner here. This is the concrete going east.
Yeah. And then American Way here will be completed up to Brookstone Drive. That's part of the project.
What's the completion date on that?
October. So, I mean, they might be done with it sooner, but contractually it's October. The schedule that they laid out at the pre-construction meeting, I think, kind of doing American Way in like August.
Yeah, they started here and then they'll jump to American Way here. And then the subdivision part will be the final part, so that'll be later in the year, so. We're going up to look at the subdivision part next, so we can look at that. But this is actually 3 parts. There's also a grinder pump that goes with the distillery that's up here, where they're installing a grinder pump to pump sanitary sewer off that one lot. And the distillery sits right here on this lot.
So are you aware of this one, where it's the Dog and Shrub Distillery is going in here? Anticipate they're starting this year yet?
Yes.
Correct?
Yep. They came in to file for the permit. Dustin got a little cranky because they still hadn't provided him with a few items.
So they're going to do some fill in here. Some of the fill will be coming from the Main Street project, if everything goes well. And then the guys have asked to put a tunnel from the light and water building to the distillery, and then if everything goes well, there might be a pie factory up here, so we're just going to continue the tunnel up there. Probably be filled with police officers. But,
Well, I'm thinking that tunnel will be filled with water.
This was the one odd spot. The sanitary sewer came out of the ground back there south of the light and water building. And then the other sanitary sewer is up on the County Highway B, Lake Street up there. And there's a gap here. This building actually drains back into the Tamarack Apartments. And then those two are on the Lake Street. And when we did this, we put a manhole up there, and we got an easement that came down here so that we could put a lift station in here and then pump up to that, and it'll drain out that way too. This was just an odd spot. We couldn't get sewer to it any normal.
Continental divide.
A lot of flat ground.
A lot of flat ground.
all right, we can head up, and we're going to go into the Brookstone subdivision. So I think you guys are aware of the houses going in here, and I believe, Steve, all the 2 lots?
One now.
1 lot. Already filled up.
So what, 1 year they've been here?
Yep.
Something like that?
Less than a year.
Less than a year.
So this went fast.
Straight?
I'm sorry, go left again.
We're going to church.
Whatever you want.
Nobody wants the house overlooking a church?
Apparently not.
They're just, still guilty all the time?
Be the best one.
That was a big lot, and they were trying to figure out if they were gonna put a duplex on it, or,
Go ahead, take a left on the south.
I think we'd be better off going down to the end here,
Go down to the next one, I'm sorry.
all the way down to that hydrant down there. Yeah, that, if you wanna get back this way, she'd have to, and I think you can see the same thing from here. There's those backyards.
So keep going or?
No, stop right here. This street goes out another 300 feet, and then it turns north and connects up with another dead end up by the water tower. And I think they're about like 12
Yeah, it's over 13 lots there.
in this area here.
Yeah.
And so the water and sewer will be done here. This was kind of like cherry picking. We picked the easiest 20 lots to get in right away, so most of the water and sewer and electric was pretty simple. And this area here had the least amount of issue with limestone shelves. So it made for easier building. Go down here and then,
Go ahead and take a right.
then I think you take a left right away. It's either that one or the next one.
Next one's a dead end, so you're gonna wanna get out
So
one
two.
more further.
Yeah.
Not this one, but the next one, take it.
Those boys are really gonna be disappointed when we finish that off, if it's a through street, not a basketball court.
Hopefully it'll be good, but
This one, right?
Especially when there's a basketball court right here. There's Billy Gold Mountain.
first one, we'll just stop at the stop sign. We'll stay right here for a moment.
This, I think is a through street.
Rosewood is a cul-de-sac.
Okay, this is a cul-de-sac, and we picked this street and the next one down, which is a through street, and that was because the water and sewer had already been extended into there. So basically, we just have to do the services and the streets and the sidewalks, and we gain another 9 lots. So altogether, there are 21 lots being constructed in here this year. As far as I know, Loose Homes is already in the process of buying the 21 lots from Juicy to be able to start building, hopefully this fall. Yeah, if you go to that next street.
As their other one. Those went up fast.
Yeah, they did.
I think that's why they're itching. They've been having good luck selling houses.
And you can see back here, this street will run all the way down to the end.
Down to the farm field.
Yeah, straight.
Yeah.
But this street will also be part of that construction.
We'll go all the way down to the barracks and see if we take a right.
Usually they'll say
This works, like, we can play with different tour. Usually that, and get there's a good different tour.
Oh, sure.
Have
this one all here.
this is where that American Way comes out, so it'll run all the way through. Electric is going into
Loop the whole subdivision.
water and sewer are already running through there.
Is American Way wide enough for parking on the sides of the street or no?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's really wide.
Both sides, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
more than you can almost double park on one side.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so obviously we're at the water tower. They have started mobilizing some of their equipment, and as I think you're aware, they will sandblast the whole thing and then paint the whole thing. To do that, they will actually drape it. They'll have cloth draping the whole thing so that dust and stuff doesn't fly all over Brookstone. The immediate challenge is getting the antennas off the top, and so you see this temporary antenna was put up by Networks so they could keep their stuff running. We have got our AMI antenna on the top and also our SCADA antenna, but the AMI antenna is redundant, so we can take this one down, and we've got another one over by the old water tower that will carry us. And then we have put together a temporary cell phone SCADA connection. So we can take this one down for the time that the tower is being painted, and we can still maintain our SCADA connection through cell phones. And we've been testing that for 2 weeks now, and it hasn't failed yet. So if we can get through the next 3 months, we'll be very happy about not losing our SCADA. The other thing here, of course, is the paint scheme. And as I think we've talked about here, is the bottom of the tower, the stem, and all that will be a dark gray. And then about a third of the way up the bowl, that'll switch to a lighter gray, and then it'll have like mills across there in a dark blue. In fact, I think the blue is actually a purple, and for those of you that grew up in the 70s, the color is called purple haze, and I think that's entirely appropriate for this. And just so you understand too, it's not just the outside of the tower, but the inside of the tower is being painted, so the whole thing will be painted. That takes care of all of our DNR inspections, all that kind of good stuff, at least for 10 years. The tower painting itself is probably good for 25 years or so. And if you recall, it's about $370,000.
66.
Well, yeah, when everything's said and done. So it's a good project to have out of the way.
When did this go up?
This tower,
99, 2000.
it has not been touched since.
It was 99, because when I got here, the air was done. And then we took down the old tower, amongst much wailing and gnashing of teeth, because it was such a beautiful tower.
The only thing that'll be different on this is on the top, we will put a guardrail all the way around the top. It's not there now, so that will be added to it. And that's where they'll mount the antennas. It's also a safety feature, so that when people are up there working, they can kick off to that. That's it. Any questions on the water tower? Oh, and they're going to start probably middle of this month. It'll be done middle to late August, depending on weather. Okay. All right, Patty, go back out of here. Or, yeah,
Turn around.
If you
I
want.
think if you can spell anything fun with Lake Mills, you can parse the letters.
Forgot
Pop the door open so we can yell at
to.
him.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah,
Josh
yeah.
still work for us?
Hey, watch your language. Watch your language now. Thank you, gentlemen.
Did
He didn't see you, he didn't recognize you.
Yeah, you know what they're thinking.
Frosty.
So this is the McDonald's edition, and my understanding is that it has been shut down for most of the week now. And what's happening is the guys are putting in a new service. If you look in the opening by the front end loader there, you see those 3 green things? That's where the transformer used to sit. And so they're taking that old transformer out and connecting them to this transformer right here. So it'll probably take them another hour or so, and they'll have that done. And I don't know how much you do or don't know about this, but they've changed the drive-through configuration here. They've added a little bit on the east side, and I think they're doing a pretty big remodel on the inside also. And if you've been to other McDonald's in the area, I think the same guy owns them. They're remodeling and upgrading all of them. So this is I think one of the bigger projects they got done. All right. Any questions on the McDonald's expansion? I think they're opening up again the 26th.
No, 22nd, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, 22nd. You're correct. About a week. Good? All righty. Yes, please.
There's another guy.
No.
Brendan, it's just noticed
Oh, we got the
that
turtle.
Yeah, right here.
Or
Out
the
to the
same
dog in the backyard. So if you looked at the phasing of the Sandy Beach report, the bull launch comes first, and then we continue to move east.
And the reason for that is that we get all the traffic for the boat launch out of here. We can then start attacking the parking lots and the infrastructure under it and all the stormwater and that type of stuff as we continue to move east. We can take care of the restaurant after the parking lots are done into the beach area, and then we can move up into the trailers. So this is why we started here with the boat launch first, and why the proposal came down the way it did. We went through the designs and all the public comment, and we think we have a pretty good design based on the fact that it ties in with the way the rest of the beach is going to be developed. There are obviously some neighbors who don't think so, but from a theoretical standpoint, back over there you have Indian mounds, you have a lot of oak trees, you have the consistent beach. You'd still cut basically the whole park in half. This way you have the boat launch is totally separate from all the other activities, so you can pull your boat in and out and not impact any of the other activities in the park. So from that standpoint, it's done a lot to maintain the overall character of the park. Any questions?
Line be gone on
Yes.
Sandy Beach Road, so I thought maybe.
The fence. Yeah, the fence will be gone. There will be a fence for a while that'll run along this
Yep.
side, but eventually all the fences will be gone. All right, we can start heading back the other direction. One of the things we'll do is, as we move, actually in the last proposal, this area right about here is where the new stormwater will end up.
Kinda all
This
along
area
this
right
side.
here is a stormwater infiltration, bio infiltration basin. And then what we do then is we can start late in the year and actually do the paving. So that pretty much after the Labor Day weekend, we can come in and do most of this work in the first half, and then come in and finish up the second half, and then later we'll shift to the restaurant, and then that area stays pretty similar. They'll redo the shelter and the bathrooms. They'll make it one building, and they'll put a storage shed here. And then if you could just go over again, please. This is the area where all the new water and sewers will come from. So the lift station is way down there in that parking lot, and then some of the water main that runs out there. If we do a high grade invasive species, aquatic invasive species cleaning site, we'll have to have water down there and upgrade the electric. And so that's running all that down through that parking lot. And then this area will be redone, and we'll end up with a few less trailers. I seem to find out every day that there's a lot of people who are in here who have trailers that haven't been up here for 10 or 15 years, and they just keep paying their rent, and all of a sudden now they're starting to say, I'm just going to pull my trailer out. So I think we're getting to the point here where the people who want to stay here, and we'll put in the trailers that need to be in here, will be ready to go. We'll do this phase, and then we'll do that phase. We'll pull Ferry Drive all the way down through. So instead of turning there at Woodland Beach Road, we can continue right straight down to Sandy Beach here.
What's the time frame of this versus the other part of the park?
Well, the way we designed it was in 5 phases. And so if you followed the phasing, it would be 5 years. I'm not going to guarantee that that's exactly the way it's going to roll out.
Okay.
You could have something that changed
Speed
the
limit sign there, just pull it.
Ferry Drive will actually come out right about here. And it'll run up through and then tie in, so that you have 2 alternates. You have Main Street or Ferry Drive. You can get all the way down here. Eventually, when the development starts on the other side, we have a
proposal to run it down through, here down to Topol Street. So that you'll be able to get all the way through in 2 different locations. And then the third one would be CP Avenue eventually. That way we have multiple alternate routes to get through the city in emergency cases, or like this under construction. So, and what the requirement will be, we're putting in a new, they have a laundry room down there, bathrooms, laundry room. That'll actually become laundry, storm shelter, showers, so that whenever you upgrade a trailer park now, you have to put in a storm shelter. So we'll do that. All these lots will get bigger. There'll be parking along, there'll be actually, this will all shift back and there'll be parking in here all the way down the street that angles in for these people so that they don't have to park all over inside the thing there. These trees will be really thinned out. They've gotten to the point now where they are a fire hazard, and the fire chief is pretty concerned, especially when they shoot off fireworks out here. And then all the trailers will have to upgrade to 86 or newer. So, and then the water and sewer will be city grade. It'll be private. It'll be owned by the city's trailer park, but it will all be city quality. So it'll be dumped in high quality plastic. It'll drain, and it won't have to be shut down in the wintertime. I don't think we're gonna. Our proposal is not to run it all winter long, to keep it kind of a resort type of trailer park, so that we don't have to battle any of the issues of people getting in here, not being willing to leave or something along that line. Any questions on any of that?
Is the Parks Board gonna be looking at this tomorrow night?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
I know they're terribly excited. Dustin, Mark and Brian are doing the presentation tomorrow night.
Okay, we can head back to City Hall. We are finished.
All right. Which way would you like to go?
7 o'clock, meeting adjourned.
Did you really?